Welcome to One on One. Today I get to speak to my Member of Parliament, Sam Dzata George. He's a Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. So I say Member of Parliament because I happen to be in his constituency on a number of things. I know currently a lot of people are looking to him for the anti-LGBTQI plus. We'll talk about that just briefly around it because there's a lot that has been said about it. But also look at his constituency and how does age affect him as an MP? Because age is such a big deal. How does age? Is it a disincentive for young politicians? He would answer that. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Bridget.
Right. So first of all, I mean, I wouldn't want to get into a lot of the conversation around the LGBT because a lot has been said. I wonder how much cost is it to you?
Well, it's I can just say it's a huge cost. It comes at huge physical, spiritual cost. Not just to me, but to my family as well.
Right.
And like I said to someone else on another platform, I said, when this bill is passed and done and we are done with everything, maybe one day I'll speak about what the real cost has been to me and my family. I don't have a problem with me per se. When I decided to take this battle, I knew that it was going to come at a cost, but to my family, it's...
How so? Explain. Are people going to them directly? I mean, what way are they affected?
I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, I won't go into the details now, but there's a lot of psychological cost to it, to them. There's also the heightened need for security around them, which is not, I've got a very young family and my family is very, just like myself, very laid back. We're regular. We like to step out and do our things as normal. The need for some kind of protocol around the things that you could do, things that you could always do that you can't do now. Increased security, which is something the kids are still trying to wrap their heads around, and all of that. And its effect on them psychologically are things that, for me, are things that weigh very heavy on me. But like I said, we'll weather through it.
Okay, but for you as a person, as a Member of Parliament, we know that publicly, plus, they call you the Big Eight, who are championing this bill. There's a threat of visa. The embassies have weaponized visa. But apart from that, is there any other threats that we are not aware of?
Oh, there have been hate mail, insults, the threats of what will happen. But I, for one, and I want to believe for my other colleagues, even though I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, mentally I was prepared for this. And so the hate mail, the threats, I've lived with this almost all my political career. For those who followed my political career, my entry into Parliament, the things I went through in that election really toughened me up on a certain level. And so threats to life, hate mail, are things that I take.
You don't intend to take action as in report it at least, so that there's a record of it that you received these emails for championing this bill.
You know, for me, on this bill, one thing I'm trying very much to do is to, as much as possible, and many times when the media calls me, many media houses will tell you, I say to speak to my other colleagues, is to try and not make this about me, about my person. You know, I believe that when it becomes about me, it will do a lot, it will detract a lot from the substance of what the bill is about. And so for me, what's most important is that the right precautions and measures are taken. But ultimately, my life is in the hands of God.
But why do you think it's about you? Is it because you're vocal, you defend your bill very well? And is that
a lot of the heavy lifting? Well, a lot of the heavy lifting had been done by way of circumstance and delegation. A lot of the heavy lifting was left to me, and so in most of the engagements and stuff around it, in every group there's always a focal point. So I was focal point on drafting of the bill and putting it together, even though everything in there had to get the approval and say so of all the 8, but the media too has seemed to gravitate more to granting interviews with me and speaking on it, and a lot more debates have. But I know that my other colleagues have been speaking. Honorable Della Soa, for example, has been very vocal in the Volta region, where she's been over the recess. Honorable Alassane Suhini has also been very, very vocal in speaking on it on some of the national platforms. Roxin Dafiamekpo has also been very, very vocal. Honorable Bedra, speaking even on international platforms. People do not realize that he actually spoke to CNN before I did, you know. And so it's not just been Sam George. It's a whole plethora of the 8. But
okay. I'm sure you've got this question, but this particular question is in a part of Dr. Arthur Kennedy, who's a former presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. He said that he likes the new attitude of the members of parliament who are championing this, but he hopes that, or he wishes that they will dedicate same to the fighting corruption and healthcare and other needs of the country. What would you say to that?
I have had a lot of people question and say, is that the most pressing issue? Why aren't you doing a private member's bill on healthcare, on unemployment? Look, I am even more passionate about the youth because I identify with them. I'm more passionate about the youth than even these issues. However, Article 108 of the Constitution ties my hands and the hands of my colleagues, because there is no way you can. I'm still thinking around it. I still haven't been able to figure out a way to pass a bill that imposes a responsibility on government to employ young people or employ more people or provide better health care. That would happen without it attaching costs to the state. And 108 prevents you from bringing a private member's bill or any bill to parliament, except it is under the hand of the president. That would impose cost on the state. So that's where the challenge is. However, with advocacy, with making our voice heard, with calling out acts of corruption, I believe that anybody who's followed the media space would bear testament that I'm one person who's dedicated a large part of my young political career to talking about corruption and corrupt acts. I am not an angel, but I've served in government. I served in official capacity under President Mahama. I was assigned an official vehicle under President Mahama. I never signed for many of the perks of office that I was entitled to, things like drink and water for my office. I never took any of those things. I never stayed in official accommodation. I never took an official phone. I maintained my phone. I paid my own bills. When we're leaving office, I was offered my saloon car to buy. I rejected it, returned it to the state. For me, those are my principles. I'm not saying that those who don't do that are doing wrong. I mean, it's an entitlement. You're entitled to take it. But for me, those are my principles, and I still live my life in Parliament. I mean, as much as possible, I do not take certain things that I may be entitled to, because for me, I think that the office stationery, for example, I should be able to provide my own office stationery and stuff. So, and I know there are quite a number of people who do those. So I am committed to the fight against corruption. I believe that the people of this country deserve better than we have offered as a political class. Can we get better? Certainly we need to. We must get better. We need to do that by a sunlight campaign where we call out people for the wrongs that they do, and it must not just end with calling them out. There must be proper prosecution of those offenses. The way you prosecute a young man who, because he's hungry, went and stole a bunch of plantain and is sentenced to 10 years. You should not ask a public office holder who embezzles $10 million to refund the money, or just leave office and go and enjoy the spoils of his illegal activity. I think that when we make it a high-risk enterprise to be corrupt, to be engaged in graft and abuse of office, you then would see that it will become a disincentive for people to go into office for that reason. Because the other day on the Good Morning Ghana show with Randy, I made a point about the Ghanaian dream and what it was, and I was shocked and saddened at the response Randy gave. He said the Ghanaian dream is to become a politician and drive a V8, you know, and as sad as that may sound, it's the truth. Many young people walk up to me today and say, I want to be a politician. Why do you want to be a politician? Why? What's driving you? It appears to be the easiest way to make some money. But, you know, that should not be what it is. Going into office must be about effecting change and being an agent for change and bettering the lot of the people you serve. That's what it ought to be.
Right. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that you were offered the opportunity to buy your car and you decided not to.
Yeah.
But we know currently MPs had a, what's it called, $20 million loan for V8.
All right.
Yes.
So
What about that? Did you reject that?
No, I didn't. I took it because at the end of the day, it is a workstation vehicle, and I put out a tweet when the whole debate started.
Okay. I remember.
I've served in the executive. In the executive, I had a saloon car and I had a Land Cruiser that was available when I needed to do out of station treks. Now, those vehicles were maintained by the state. It was fueled by the state, and it belonged to the state. So when I was leaving office, it wasn't mine until it was offered that you should buy or not. Now, as a member of parliament, and now let's do the distinction. Members of parliament are part of the legislature. Judges of the superior courts are the judiciary, and the ministers make up the executive. The judges get V8s or Prados, V6, and saloon vehicles. Ministers also get Land Cruisers and Camrys, or saloon vehicles. And these are all maintained and serviced by the state, fueled by the state. But when it gets to MPs, they want to give us a loan. Now, of judges and ministers, none of those two categories of the arms of government travel as much as members of parliament. Every member of parliament, at least every week or every other week, or at least once a month, travels out of station to his constituency. You understand me? And so we do a lot more travels. Provide us the vehicles. Don't give us a loan. Buy the cars. Buy a car for Ningo Pram Pram. Whoever is the MP. You service the car, you maintain the car, the person uses the car. When he leaves, he goes away. Yeah. But you know why the state is not doing this? And you see, it's easy for people to say, oh, so as MPs, that's the largest for you. Well, you get a loan. You pay part of the loan.
Is it 40%?
You pay 40% of the loan. The government absorbs the rest.
60,
you get 60% and the interest. I have always been of the view that, no, don't give me a loan. Buy the car and let me use it. But government won't do that because the wear and tear and cost of maintaining the vehicles would be more than the cost of giving the loan. Because take, for example, let's assume that the loan is about 28 million with interest and everything. The MPs are going to pay about 40% of that. So let's assume that, give or take, some even, let's say 10 million.
$10 million, yeah.
Is born. It means the cost to the state is 18 million. Now, on the average, maintaining and running that vehicle will cost the government, at the very least, each MP, it will cost the government on a yearly basis, or let's say even on a monthly basis, it will cost you about $2,000 to fuel the vehicle, maintain the vehicle, and service it and keep it running. About $2,000 by 275 MPs in a month over a 4-year period. So you realize that the cost to the state is way more. And so it is for that reason the state is not willing to buy the vehicles. Because my view is this: give me a vehicle for my workstation vehicle because I'm an MP. It's a public service. You provide my colleagues in the executive vehicles for their work. You provide my colleagues in the judiciary vehicles for their work. So you must provide me a vehicle for my work. But the government is not doing that because, one, the wear and tear. Most times you see a minister's Land Cruiser and in 4 years it's done less than 100 Ks. But an MP's vehicle, especially those who, for example, Mahama Yariga, who comes from Boku, who has to travel every day, or the MP from Laura, or the MP from Nalirigu, who travel long distances, or the guys who are at Elubo, Elembele, for example, and do quite a distance. In less than a year, they could clock 100 Ks. You get it? And so you realize that the wear and tear on that vehicle is higher, and the possibility that after 4 years, it will not even be in a workable situation for another MP is there. And that's the reason why government is not willing to do this. So people need to understand that it may not sound palatable, but actually the MPs are doing a big service to the state by agreeing to pay for a portion of the vehicle that they use for the work that they are supposed to be giving vehicles.
I don't think people are even against MPs taking loan. I think they are against the country taking loans for our MPs to buy vehicles. The reason when we can take loans to build maybe a hospital, or we can take loans to, why are we taking loans for MPs? I think that's where the real crux of the issue is. They think that
it's because it's parliament. Parliament is an institution of government. It's part of government. It's government.
So if government can't afford,
it's the same way you don't have ministers going to contract loans on their own. Okay. It goes through the Ministry of Finance in the name of the government of Ghana. So this loan for the MP's loans, for the MP's cars, is not standing in the, it's not Parliament negotiating. It's the Ministry of Finance, because it's government of Ghana. You get it? If we're doing it in individual capacities, take for example, if I want to buy a vehicle for myself or for anybody around me, and I need a facility, government is not going to take that loan for me, because that's a personal thing. But because this is a workstation vehicle, okay, it is government's responsibility to provide that vehicle. And government is saying, okay, I can facilitate it through this loan arrangement for you. I understand when people think, why is government taking a loan? But it is just the structure that exists today. Can we change the structure? Do we want to make it better? I think so. I
did a calculation on the maintenance, and it will cost about $2.2 million to maintain that. Because, I mean, average, I did $2,000.
If we just average $2,000.
Yes, $2,000 times so 275 times 4. Is it no, not times 4 years? 12. How many? No, times 48. No, 4 years.
Times 48. Yes.
So that's 48. That's $26 million to maintain the MP's vehicles
for 4 years.
For 4 years.
And that is minus if you bought the car. If the government was buying the car, the government will still take the loan to buy the cars anyway.
Okay.
You get it? So it would then be a $28 million debt on the books of the taxpayer to buy the cars and give to MPs, like you give, because the MPs need a vehicle to do their job. You give every other person a vehicle. So you need, except you are saying don't give MPs vehicles to do their job. Then in that case, you also say don't expect to see MPs coming back home because how do they transport themselves? But if you buy the cars and own the cars, that's $28 million. Yeah. And then it will cost you $26 million to maintain the cars
for the
4-year period. You then see that you're doing 28, 26, 54 million. That's what government is looking at, and government is saying, okay, if I don't own these vehicles and I take the loan for the MPs and they pay 10 million back and I spend only 18 million and the maintenance of 26 doesn't even come to me, they bear the cost. It costs the state it costs the taxpayer 18 million to provide those vehicles. The alternative will cost the taxpayer 54 million.
Okay, all right. So
times 3.
Right. Okay. So I'm coming back to the issue about the LGBT. This was when you mentioned that you hadn't taken you were offered to buy and you didn't buy your vehicle in the SWAL administration. So that's why I had to ask that question. But then I wanted to find out about when people say that you are weaponizing homophobia, and I'm speaking to this NDC member Francis Dodovi, who says that if you see someone who is gay or lesbian, stone them to death.
Well,
when you hear such comments,
anybody who says that is making very unfortunate comments. And when you take the bill that we have presented to Parliament, I believe clause 22 of the bill prohibits extrajudicial treatment, and so anybody who carries out that kind of activity is liable for prosecution under the bill. Okay. If the person is not killed and is injured, because what we criminalize is verbal assault and physical assault. Okay. So even insults can send you to jail for up to 3 years under our bill of an LGBTQ person. Now, if the person is killed, that even sends it to a different level. You'll be charged for murder. You understand me? So our bill is in no way promoting hate. Our bill doesn't call for violence.
But do you think that since there's a bill, people who are already homophobia, they feel like this is an opportunity for us? Because I saw a man who is suspected to be gay. I don't know if they saw him in the act, but they said they suspected him to be gay, and it was on Facebook. He was being attacked. They were beating him up and things like that.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That the bill is going to take care of all of those extrajudicial treatments. It's going to mete out punishments to people, and that's the more reason why we need to have a broader conversation about the bill. Because you see, when people look at the bill and say it's promoting hate, how is, and that's a question I was actually pondering on this morning in the shower. I said to myself, how is it that my way of life, my thinking, my orientation, speaking about it is called hate by the other side? Because I'm promoting my orientation. I'm promoting my understanding of what sexual orientation should be.
Which is between a man and a woman.
So I am speaking out my position. How then do you determine from the onset, even before we have a debate, that me stating my opinion, me stating my viewpoint is hate, and yours is not hate?
But they say you're misrepresenting them.
I haven't misrepresented you. Make your case. And you see, let me do this for the first time here. Has any of the supporters of the LGBTQ community told you what right it is that they are fighting for? When they say they are fighting for rights in Ghana, what rights are they fighting for? Do you know? I mean, it's not clear to anybody what rights they are fighting for.
That people will not be targeted because you suspect them to be engaged in that.
Have they shown you any evidence of somebody in this country who's been denied employment, denied health care, denied accommodation because of a suspicion of it being LGBTQ? Have they shown you any evidence of that?
Well, maybe not admitted. If you admit that you are
There
gay,
is
because if
no,
there's a bill,
no, you need to bring evidence
does not
to the
allow
table.
you to be comfortable in your own. Why would you even admit? So I would say I'm straight just to get a job.
No, because no HR person is going to be asking you your sexual orientation in an interview. Nobody does that. And that's why we're saying that if there's been instances of that, bring that out. That would be discrimination. Okay? But what we are fighting is the attempt to then make their perversion their way of life, which I view as a perversion.
I was coming to that. Why do you call it perversion?
Yes, I view it as a perversion.
Okay.
Their way of life, I view as a perversion. Make that a norm and demand that society accepts your minority perverse view.
But did they ask for that? Because I do remember LGBTQ plus people asking.
What was the whole essence of the LGBTQ plus advocacy office that was opened? What were they going to advocate for?
So that's what propelled. That's what sparked
this bill is directly in response to the advocacy. That's why when you take the bill, the strongest punishment in the bill is not for the act. It's for the advocacy. It is not for the act. It's for the advocacy. Because this bill is targeted at the propagation and advocacy of it. Because you see, Beatrice, we need to understand something. You can do whatever you want to do sexually in the confines of your bedroom. That's your private enterprise. This bill has no business and has no care whatsoever what you do in your private room, in your private space. But I would not sit down as a father of 3 kids and have you come and try to indoctrinate my kids and tell my kids what their view on sexuality should be.
In what way?
CSE. Comprehensive Sexuality Education. The attempt to now make homosexuality a normal thing. The attempt to push it down mainstream, put it in kids' cartoons, and try to indoctrinate the kids to accept. I mean, the other day I was watching. I've got a kid who's not even 2 yet, and she was playing. There's this popular cartoon song. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching 2 by 2, and they've done a version of it that talks about 2 mummies and 2 daddies and how it is okay. How do you teach a 1-year-old? Who gives you the right to push that down to my 1-year-old? I have a right to demand that I be allowed to bring my kid up the way I want to bring my kid up, in lines with our culture. So keep your perversion to your room. Don't bring it out. And you see, when people say we're going after them, most of the things that are criminalized in the bill are also criminal for heterosexuals. So open show of affection. If a heterosexual couple go and it's their car, it's consensual sex, you go and park by the roadside and you get it off with your partner in your car, you'll be prosecuted, even though it's a man and a woman, because it's indecent exposure. So if we are applying the same thing to homosexuals, how is that discrimination?
Okay. All right. I just want to quickly, we're almost out of time, but I want to find out about your constituency, because I'm from that constituency. Yeah. And well, from the numbers you got in the 2020 elections, it looks like you're doing well, because you literally doubled your vote from the 2016 elections in 2020. First of all, why do we have bad roads in my constituency? Why? It's
a national phenomenon. The bad roads everywhere, maybe with the exception of Chibi.
I mean, I know, and I also know that it's not MP's job to do votes, it's to pass laws. But I mean, there's a certain perception. Lobbying.
I mean, one thing I've done, even on the campaign trail, is when I go into communities and they complain about the roads, I don't make them a promise I'll fix your roads. I make it clear to them that's not my job. what I can do is promise you that I would lobby as much as possible. And I mean, one of the first constituencies that the roads minister was in after he was appointed as roads minister in 2017 was Ningo Pram. He came there, I too came around. We spent almost 4 hours in the constituency, touring roads, looking at the roads, seeing the condition of the roads. He has a fair understanding. I am constantly calling his phone up. I'm constantly writing him messages. I've gone there with chiefs to meet with him. So I am doing my bit of lobbying. Is it yielding the results? Not as much as I want to see. But then the question is, I put it in the national picture. Are you seeing a lot of roads being constructed around the country? No. There's very little construction going on. And so we're pushing, even in this period, in all credit to the roads minister, a contract that was awarded in 2016 under the Mahama administration it's a 14-kilometer road from Dawa all the way to Mango Chunya. With all the pressure and lobbying, in 2018, they did release the funds, and that road has been completed. It's been done. From Apollonia to New Jerusalem, that also has been done in 2019. So you do see that there is some work going on. Is the speed as much as we would want to see? No. And again, when you keep knocking, the Afenya Dawenya road is a critical road. I have written letters, I have asked questions in Parliament. I mean, just 3 months ago, I went and saw the minister in my presence. The minister spoke to the contractor and said, go back to site. The contractor came back to site. So if you go on that road, there's almost 4 kilometers of material that have been put on. But then the contractor needs some mobilization to begin to work. The ministry is unable to provide them that mobilization. Unfortunately, the rains have set in, is beginning to wash off the material. And so these are some of the problems we have. It's largely a finance problem. It goes beyond the Minister for Roads. It sits and rests solely at the doorstep of the Minister for Finance.
Okay. Just a quick one on I just want to take us back to the LGBTQ plus.
Okay.
The president said he wants the conversation to be civil. What's your response to what the president said that, because if you call them perverts, that doesn't sound civil to me.
Well, I'm a heterosexual man. I am straight. Why am I not called straight? Why am I called a homophobe? Is that civil? Why is it that when I put out my viewpoint, I'm told I'm spreading hate? The president's advice should go to the proponents and supporters of LGBTQ. If they want to have a civil discussion, we have been very civil. We call them by the names they've chosen to be called: lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two spirits, and all of that. Whatever they choose to call themselves, we call them that. So why do they not refer to us as straight? Why do they want to call us homophobes? Which is a derogatory term for starters. So yes, we will have a civil conversation. We've tried to keep it as civil as possible. They are very emotional. They are very emotive in their choice of words. We will keep trying our best, and we'll keep trying our best and trying to keep this as under wraps as possible. But I think that one thing I'd have loved to hear the president say was his position expressly on the bill. He's seen the bill. Is he for it? Is he against it? Is he for it with amendments? Or he's totally against it? I mean, there are 3 positions on this bill.
He wasn't clear. I mean, he just said that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would have loved for him to give an indication as leader of our country. Where is his mind on this bill? Is he for the bill? Is he for the bill with amendments? Then his Attorney General can come and push forward those amendments. Or is he against the bill? Does he not want the bill? Because we need to hear. We've seen his lawyer, his personal lawyer, Akoto Ampao, come out against the bill. But, well, that's his personal lawyer. He's now president. His lawyer as president is the Attorney General. We need to hear. And per the orders of Parliament, when we start the debate of this, the Attorney General has to be part of the debates. So we need to know what the president's position is on this. I mean, on the bill. Because he's spoken in general terms about the whole phenomenon. Now we have a bill. Do you support it? Okay. Do you oppose it? Do you support it with amendments? What amendments? Which areas do you want us to look at? Then we can have a conversation.
Okay. I want to know, what's your relationship like with your mentor, E.T. Mensah? You defeated him in 2015? Yes.
He's the Greater Accra Regional Council of State rep. And so Yes, as every other MP, we work with our Council of State Rep.
But when he comes to
the constituency,
yeah.
he's my constituent. I'm his MP.
He's your. So you have no relationship with him?
Oh, wherever I meet him, I always give him the courtesy.
Has he given you the support? I mean, I'm sure it's never easy for a young person.
It is not binding. He is under no obligations to give me any support. So I would not make demands that are not obligatory of him. But I believe that the most important thing I need is the support of the majority of my constituents. And like you rightly pointed out, the results show that over a 4-year period, we appreciated by about 98% our vote margins, and it shows that the people who really matter support the work we're doing.
All right, thank you very much, Sam George.
Thank you.
Sam George is a member of Parliament for Ningo Pram, speaking to us on LGBTQ, what members of Parliament or he is doing for his constituents. Like he mentioned, the votes tells a different story, that he's probably doing something right in his constituency, and that's why he doubled his vote. We're back next week with another guest. Do join us on all our social media platforms. Follow us at One on One on Twitter, and on Facebook is also at One on One. Thank you for watching.